Hello everyone, it's Vike again, and today I'm going to be showcasing some BT6 gameplay, and in this case I'm going to be piloting Tyrantkabuterimon. And this deck has been really interesting to me just because it has some really fun defensive capabilities, like being able to redirect a bunch with Izzy and the new Metal Life WarGreymon, along with just being able to play out other bugs to bomb deck other key pieces on the opponent's board, and I just found that to be a really fun and interesting mechanic and just whole game plan. And when it's fully set up, I found it really difficult for the opponent to actually finish game. And in my case, I go first, I evo into Tento in the back, and I play Tyrantkabuterimon, and I end up grabbing the promo Agumon. And I still like to run it only because if it's your tone effect to basically make the opponent lose a memory, and it gives piercing, so my Tyrant can kind of pierce over things if I needed to, or whatever is in that stack. And he ends up playing his Mylismon Tamer, the Mummymon, which sets me to like 1, and then I end up just evoing into my Blade Kawaga to make him buff, and this kind of helps me set up my ace play because I do end up playing 2 Mega Kabuterimon aces as well. This is really good for him because he ends up promoting the Fascomon, and I believe he has about like 2 or 3 discards off of it if it dies, but it doesn't. He hits a boost, which is really unfortunate for him because now next turn I just have a lot of value. And then he ends up playing his Tyrantkabuterimon for like 3 cost, I believe, because he deleted the Tamer. And in this case, it ends up trashing like 2 pieces because it's like, look at top 5, trash 2 pieces. And since he deleted the Tamer, he gets to play a Mylis in text card from his trash. That's like level 5 or lower. And that's really good for him because he ends up playing the Devimon. And this board is kind of scary for me because if I don't end up getting rid of the Tyrantkabuterimon, he still has a blocker, and the on deletion is able to replay a Tamer with Mylis and text, so he can kind of play out either his Yukio if he has it, or he can replay the Tamer he just deleted. In this case, I bring up my Tento and I end up suspending the Tyrantkabuterimon. I go into my Metal Life WarGreymon to kind of make one of my stacks big. I believe I picked the Tento, but I don't really know if it matters in this case just because, I can either bomb deck his 2 rookies or his Tyrantkabuterimon. In this case, I just go into Tyrant and I end up playing my Grand Kawaga, and since I can't really suspend anything since I already suspended, and I'm thinking what I want to suspend, I think at first I was choosing to pick Tento because maybe I could bomb deck the rookie, and since it had the buff, but it wasn't big enough, so I end up just suspending my Grand Kawaga ace I just played to bomb deck his Tyrantkabuterimon just because I think that was the biggest problem on the board right now. And while my Tyrant isn't suspended to get the protection, it's not a super big deal just because, it's a struggle for him to even delete with Digimon, so he pretty much has to use an option, and in this case he uses Venom Infusion to delete my Tyrant stack, which again, he would have had to do that either way if it was suspended, but now he just has my Tyrant removed, so he doesn't have to deal with it next turn. But in my case, I still have my 2 guys and he hasn't swung with his rookies, so I'm able to again use Tentomon and be able to give my Grand Kawaga buffs. And in this case, I can swing for like 2 checks because when he becomes suspended, he ends up being able to swing for 2 checks, and it really sucks because in this case I end up hitting into another Venom Infusion which kills my guy, and I overflow. And I was kind of hoping I didn't hit that at that current point because I don't have anything in the back, and the only thing I do have is my Tentomon on board. And then he swings again with his small guy, and in this case it ends up hitting a Tyrantkabuterimon, which for him is probably really good because he wants to see less of that, and he just of course gets a lot of his draws and discards off his Demi-Meramon and his Fascomon. And the Demi-Meramon is especially good in this deck just because you do have a lot of level 5s that you kind of want to trash because you can kind of replay them and whatnot. And again, it combos really well with the Yukio because you can play your Mallows and just getting them in trash is really good. And then he ends up just hard slamming his Tyrantkabuterimon for 6 just because he didn't have to Tamer, so it is what it is. But it's not really that bad just because again, he can trash 2 cards from the top 5 he looked at again. And that's just really good also because now he has another blocker that I have to deal with. But it's not the worst thing just because again, I have Tento on board and he hasn't gotten rid of that. But in this case, it's not really the biggest deal because I can't really deal with this board right now just because, I only have a rookie out. And in this case, I just grabbed the Tyrantkabuterimon because I kind of wanted a stack in the back because I didn't have one. And in this case, I ended up just doing 2 trainings just because I really wanted to save up for later. And in that case, I ended up grabbing the Tyrant because I don't think I had another one in hand at that current moment. And the next taunt for my friend ends up being kind of simple because he doesn't really have a lot on board, so I guess right now he just considering to swing, which he does, and it ends up being Stingmon, which deletes his guy. And I don't think he wants to swing with his WarGreymon just because he wants to have the blocker and hopefully that I end up swinging into it. He ends up just building another fast gun in the back and just going into his Devimon to again just grab some pieces. And it's kind of sad for me just because of the fact that he left me at 1, so it's pretty much only able to go into a Mega this dawn just because I end up having 2 trainings. And in this case he didn't kill the Tentomon, which is good because I can kind of lock down at least 1 Digimon. So in this case I end up going into the promo WarGreymon so I can also lock down his Devimon, because I'm pretty sure I tend to at least kill off or at least bomb deck the WarGreymon. And in this case I also go into my meta life, and I think he is at like plus 6k via the Tento effects and his own effect as well. Then I just of course hauled Evo into Tyrant and play my Grand Kawaga Ace, which helps me get rid of his bolt just because I end up bomb decking the WarGreymon, and since I had Timotimon under, I just swing into the Devimon, leaving him with no board once again. And the Tentomon here definitely helped me at least alleviate some of the evolution costs because I do gain 1 memory back from it. And of course he ends up bringing his Fascomon up, but it doesn't really matter because he soon just deletes it with his Miss Burial, which lets him play his Myosmon for free, and that's really good just because now he also gets a tame roll with that too. And again, with the Myosmon deck, you pretty much want a lot of your stuff in the trash like other Bobo decks, but in this case it's also because you want to set your Tamos and your Megas. And this next play, I think it's going to be kind of funny just because it was something I really was expecting it, just because of how much memory it ended up passing. But the play ends up being him playing another Miss Burial to delete his Myosmon that he just played. And the reason I thought it was funny just because of the fact that he gave me like 6 memory because he overflowed, but this allowed him to, you know, play out a Devimon to get another Source, because I'm pretty sure he ended up was missing like a piece or 2 in trash. And again, this board setup for me is looking kind of bad just because again, if I end up deleting his Myosmon, he get to trigger a lot of his effects, and again, I don't want that, so I have to tread carefully and kind of have to just figure out a way to bomb deck it before I actually start attacking, because you know the Myosmon Ace has blocker. But with 6 memory, I do kind of have enough to go into another Mega. And of course I end up bringing up my Cyber-Rainforce to help me at least build through another stack in the front. And of course I end up going to my promo Kawagamon. I don't remember if it really matters in this case just because I can pretty much bomb deck anything I want. But in this case I end up suspending my Tyrant, and then that way it has the Digimon protection along with giving my Meta Life Kawagamon a 3k buff. In this case I end up just passing home with Izzy just because now I can have a redirect. And again, that's going to be really good for me because if he swings with the Devimon, he won't get an extra check on me. And of course, he gets to play out a Mallow for free since Yukio was suspended. And this is a new Mallow, which is pretty good just because either he deletes one of his own stuff to delete one of my unsuspended Digimon, or he gets to delete one of my Tamos. And either way, I believe he gets to trash my security, which is kind of bad for me because even if I redirect, he still gets to do damage. And now you're going to see him thinking a lot just because with this board setup it's kind of a struggle to deal with just because, you know, he can't really beat over my Tyrant just because his stuff pretty much is capped at like 14k, and I have like 2 redirects on board right now, so if he swings with his Mallow he might be able to delete my Izzy or whatnot, but I still have a Meta Life Kawagamon underneath my Tyrant, so I still get at least 1 redirect. And again, this is one of the big upsides of Tyrant because when they get sub with the redirect, it's pretty hard to get over it because of just again how much you're able to swap around attacks and how hard it is to even get over it sometimes. And he ends up swinging with this Mallow here pretty much just to deal with my Meta Life Kawagamon stack just because I could go to another Mega really easily with that. And he ends up trashing a Shine B, which is kind of not good for me because I really wish he hit it in security only because I'm able to, you know, at least gain DP on my side and also bomb deck something. And of course I end up redirecting to my Tyrant and gaining a memory off the Tentomon. and that way of course now he kind of just has to pass me to a lot more memory than expecting, and he just ends up playing his dual Tamo. And to me right now it's not really that big of a deal, just because I still am able to go into a Tyrant for cheaper, and I do end up playing a Tentomon in the back. I end up playing the Kawaga one just because I realized I had Kawaga X in my hand, so I can just kind of get an extra draw and search. And I ended up swinging with my Tyrant just because to get an extra check in. And my searches were kind of unfortunate just because it's 2 Izzies and another Shiny B. I would have at least enjoyed to see another Shiny B in my hand or something. And I ended up just training because extra search and I have the memory to do so. And I end up swinging with Tyrant just because right now there's nothing really to bomb deck, so might as well just get the damage in down. And I end up just passing turn with Green Memory Boost, and I end up grabbing a Shivamon just in case if I can't finish turn I can continue to just stall him out, because I also realized that his deck size is getting kind of small, so if I can just stall him then either way I have a pretty surefire way of winning game, because my board right now is pretty hard to break. And he ends up playing his Tyrantkabuterimon for cheap just because he ends up deleting the table, and he ends up trashing like a Digimon and his another Venom, which is good. And again, he's just kind of struggling to find a way to either close out game or to be able to set up enough blockers to kind of make sure I can't win, just because I do have lethal on board. And right now he's just kind of looking through his trash to see hopefully if he can combo off, but I don't really think he has a whole lot of his key pieces that he wants right there right now, just because of the fact that I end up bomb decking like stuff like his Mons and whatnot, the level 5 ones. I think a lot of his level 6s are trash, but right now it's kind of unusable just because he also just doesn't have a Tamo he can use with it. And he ended up playing another Tyrantkabuterimon, which again now he has 2 blockers, and I kind of have to deal with that on my turn, and if I don't they get the on deletions, and again I just have to figure out a way how to deal with that as well. And again, this is another key strength of Tyrant, just because if you have a good setup you could just pretty much stall out the game, and especially if they can't beat over your Tyrant, it's kind of a big ouch, just because again the longer Tyrant stays on board the more annoying he is. And my friend here is just trying to figure out the best play he can do to hopefully try to survive the next turn, just because now I can have like 3 bodies on board, and while he has 2 blockers, again I could be able to deal with him. And he ends up just playing a Myon Ace, which lets him play off a Tamo or I think a level 3, but he ends up just playing his Devimon just I guess to get another search. But I only know how impactful just because his deck size is really small, so even if I can't win game I could probably like stall him out to the best of my ability. But in this case of course I just bring up and I use my Tento effect to suspend one of his blockers, just because that way it's one less redirect I have to deal with. And again, the less blockers I have to deal with the better, just because now he has 3 on board. And I end up just also evoing into a Blade Kawagamon to get extra TP. I don't remember what hit, I'm pretty sure it was the Blade Kawaga itself, just so I can get it really big. And since I also do have a memory boost, I think I end up popping that at some point just because I'm able to keep turn. I end up going to the promo Kuromon just because that way when I suspend stuff I can gain memory off that, and now I end up going to the BT12 or this Tyrantkabuterimon just so I can like suspend something else and give something else piercing, which helps me out in the long run. And again I deal with his blockers just because that way they don't get the on-deletion, and that way he gets less value. And this next little bit is kind of just how I end up winning game, because this way if I pass him to as little memory as possible I'm able to bomb deck his ace and be able to overflow and kind of deal with the blocker like that without having suspended. So in this case I end up going to the promo Kawagamon, and again I don't really think it matters what exactly I hit with this effect, but I activate timing effect, so that way again I bomb deck the ace and overflow, keep my turn, and I just kind of just start swinging because I kind of have to go for game at this point. So I swing with my Tyrantkabuterimon, swing with my Tyrant, and now I just swing with the promo and go for game. And this next game I'm going to show against WarGreymon, and while I didn't get anything new in BT16, I kind of wanted to show how Tyrant is able to not only deal with smaller bodies that have like on deletions and a lot of blockers, but also how it can deal with big stacks and big tower decks that kind of deal a lot of damage in like one turn, and how you're able to kind of come back from that. And since WarGreymon can kind of get piercing a little bit easier just because they have a Metal Greymon with inherent piercing, it can kind of cause some troubles for me, because even if I'm able to redirect, they can kind of still do damage, and of course I don't want that. Along with that, they also have other tools like, you know, the WarGreymon X to kind of deal with my smaller bodies, because I do want to spam out that. And if they run Crimson Blaze, that can really screw me over because I'm not able to use the Tyrant when digivolving to play out something else for free. So I kind of have to like play around that, hopefully to the best of my ability. And I think against any red deck, you generally want to try to be bigger than them, because, you know, obviously if they slam into you, that's not going to be good just because you end up losing the stack. So obviously trying to play out your level 4 Blade Kawaga and your meta life to help make your big stack better is always going to be good. In this case, I end up going first. I end up going to Kawaga X in the back and grabbing a boost because I don't think I had much other good rookies in hand at the time, and I really just want to establish a stack in the back so that way I can continue evoing off that. And with my friend, he ends up going into his WarGreymon, and, you know, obviously going to X to at least, hopefully if he has the Greymon X, to get some protection. In this case, he switches Schoolboy, he at least grabs a Greymon X so he can use for later, and of course just plays another Schoolboy to put me at 2, and ends up grabbing a Metal Greymon X, which is beneficial for him just because that's another key card you can use to get really big and hopefully beat over Tyrant. And in my case, I end up going to the promo Kawaga in the back along with playing a boost, and I end up going my meta life just because in this matchup it's really good just because it helps me buff up my own guy as well. And he goes into the BT5 Greymon in the back just because he wants to get a bigger buff for later, just because, you know, Greymon kind of needs it to kind of get over Tyrant. And he ends up playing his BT14 Albu because I don't think he wanted to X Evo in the back just because he wanted to save the draws for later. In my case, I just passed him by playing a boost to grab a Tyrant. I don't remember exactly how much I had in hand at the time, but obviously I just want to get more Tyrants so that way I can combo off. He also swings with his Albu because I guess he realized he might have died next turn, so he could just get an extra check-in, and he just plays another one because, again, he doesn't want to waste his Cool Boys and his X anti-Evo in the back, and he doesn't want his stack to die. So I raise up and end up going to my meta life, and I end up suspending his Albu. And I kind of did some math because I was thinking like maybe I can like pop out my boost, which I end up doing, so then that way I can kind of like put him at low amounts of memory. And in this case, I just go into my Tyrant, of course, for 6, and I end up just hull playing my Grand Kawaga Ace, which helps deal with the Cool Boys because obviously he can use that to stack his X Evos and get more draws, and I don't want that. And thank God for his on play being able to delete a suspended Tamo, because again, the less Cool Boys I see him using, the better for me. And then I'm going into my end of turn stuff, and I'm pretty sure this works out this way if my thinking is correctly, because I'm able to swing at the WarGreymon, and doing the multi-mon effect, I'm able to kind of activate Tyrant's end of turn to suspend something else to bomb deck it, and since it was the only target on board, I'm able to just bomb deck it. So, you know, I'm pretty sure that's how it works out. If anyone wants to let me know in the comments below, but again, from my understanding, that's how it's supposed to go. But in the end, this didn't really matter, only because of the fact that, you know, I didn't have piercing, so I couldn't have done any damage this turn, and, you know, he couldn't really use the WarGreymon in trash anyway, since WarGreymon really doesn't deal with trash. And now this is a really bad spot for my friend, only because now he's unable to use the Cool Boy that he had played before, and one of them was deleted, so now he just has one Tamer set up. So even if he could use it, he'd definitely get a lot less draws and a lot less memory from it. And obviously for me, that's really good, just because that way he's not able to pop off and kind of deal a lot of damage to me in one turn. And in this case, I'm pretty sure he ends up just staying in the back, because right now I have 2 Megas on board, and for him to deal with that with only like a champion isn't really the greatest right now. And even if he was able to get like a Metal Greymon or something, again, he only have 3 memories, so he just passed on. So he ends up just hard slamming his tie, which is his memory setup, which is good because again, that helps him deal damage later. And right now, of course, I just have a WarGreymon in the back just in case if I need it for later. And in this case, since Tyrant can evo over other Megas, I'm able just to go into that along with playing another insect, which ends up being the promo WarGreymon, so I can keep his Cool Boy suspended because I know that he can kind of use it for later. And now I just start swinging with my Tyrants because I can't use any end of turn to swing into a Digimon, so obviously just attacking with them normally is good just because I'm able to get damage in along with just being able to get protection. And of course, keeping my board suspended is really good for me because that way he doesn't really have access to raid, and if he can't get bigger than 17k, then it's pretty much over for him because I have lethal on board along with at least one to redirect, so I can pretty much redirect into my big stack again if he can't beat over anything on board right now. And I think at this point he kind of just has to raise up and kind of hopefully deal with something, or else he kind of just dies, because I have like full bodies and while my Tyrants are all pretty big, the only thing I have to worry about in security right now is pretty much stuff like Haze-Force or any other big removal option that just removes a stack. And especially if it's just like target removal, like again Haze-Force or something else like Gaia-Force, it can hit my acing overflow, which kind of sucks for me at least. But again, I think right now he's just going up his chain and he doesn't have exactly the necessary pieces to exactly pop off, because I think the mana gray right now is like about 12k because of one of the 1k buffs underneath, along with his 1 evo. And you see him hard slam a BT not all group because I don't think he had a normal WarGreymon or the X anti option to really use, and I don't really think it mattered in the end, because again, just because of the stack I have on board, so he was really struggling to at least find one piece. And in this case, I just evo into Quagga X. I don't really think I needed to, because I could have just started swinging with my big stuff force. And in this case, I was going to swing with my ace stack, but I didn't, because just in case if it died for some reason to something else. But of course I start swinging and I go for game. I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched the video along with watching my other videos. I really do appreciate all of the support. And of course, if you guys want to keep watching my content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as well.